Well, to talk more about this, we're joined right now by Dahlman Rose. He's the CEO and co-founder of Dahlman Rose. His company is known as the investment bank for the shipping industry. Thank you so much for being with us, Dahlman. And temporarily, it seems like if they've got to divert their ships, then that's good, as Sheila was just saying. But I can't imagine that this is actually good for the business, is it?
I think that let's set the stage with some perspective. First of all, the Suez Canal accounts for 700,000 to 1 million barrels of crude and petroleum products per day. The SuMed pipeline is 1.5 million to 2 million barrels per day in northern Egypt connecting Saudi Arabia. There's a de minimis amount of oil transferred through the Suez Canal compared to the 20 million barrels per day of production in the Middle East. So from a shipping perspective, the Suez Canal is far more important to the container trade and the dry bulk trade. And I think that there's
to the oil trade.
The oil trade. And I think that there's really a disconnect between the price action in oil stocks compared to the potential impact of the closing of the Suez Canal. It's really on the margin, not an enormous event.
So in other words, investors are overreacting to this.
I think that if you see the price action in oil as a commodity, it's been volatile. It's been an extreme move. But if you look at actual shipping rates, they've moved maybe $1,000 a day. And if there was real concern, and I think that what makes shipping stocks sort of, in general, an interesting investor hedge on what's going on in the Middle East from a macro perspective, is that they really haven't moved. The rates haven't moved in concert with oil prices. So if you want to move oil or if you want to store oil on the ocean, you have a clear play in shipping.
Now, back in 1967, the Suez Canal actually did shut down for a few days, and Morgan Stanley had this report out saying that freight rates actually were up fivefold during that time. If it were to happen, do you see that same kind of spike? Do you think it could go even higher?
I think that the Suez Canal has less importance in the advent of the SuMed pipeline. It's just not as important as it was to the oil industry. I think it's a psychological.
But to the dry bulk industry, then?
Yeah, yes and no. It's about 35. Excuse me. Let me check my notes. The dry bulk industry is about 20 to 25% of the traffic in the Suez Canal, and that tends to be less mission critical. The big driver in the dry bulk industry right now is really the flooding in Australia.
But could we see, to Sheila's point, some sort of opportunity here, if you can call it that, by the shippers to increase rates then, and would that then be passed on to us?
On the margin, we're talking about $12,000 a day for a VLCC rate. In the last
What's VLCC?
A very large crude carrier.
Okay, got it.
And in the last 3 to 5 years, we've seen $100,000 plus rates in VLCCs, accompanying $100 crude in the past. So there's a lot of ground that can be made up in VLCC rates, and that we think
that there's a lot of leverage. So what would you say percentage-wise then?
I'd say, on the margin, if you look at the cost of transportation versus the cost of the cargo, it is so de minimis right now. And if you're looking for a hedge on a crisis, not to short the space shuttle, but if you're looking for a hedge on a crisis, I think shipping is a very interesting, discounted way of playing it right now.
Interesting. So a hedge on this crisis. Then, Dahlman, appreciate you joining us.